do people know that we have a situation, we have an issue? That's also another question. When you, before you actually tell them that there's this situation, do they know that that situation is actually there? Exactly. Right? Can you compare and contrast what you learned from each of your different international experiences?
Broad question.
I mean, you can narrow it down and say,
right.
since you know, there are 3 countries that you've really worked on, so you can just
exactly. Those. So I would like to divide my experience into 2, or to categorize them into 2. So the academic or work experience, or things that I learned, and also the non-academic, like the cultural things. So starting from the academic, I studied and worked in Ethiopia and Norway and Switzerland, right? So when I start with the Ethiopian education or academic experience and work experience, so there is this, what I learned is there is this respect, I would call somehow too much respect for the academia, for education. We can see that in our society as well, right? You have to study, you have to learn, otherwise you are doomed. So there is that kind of understanding, right? So there is this too much respect for education, which really I find it, there might be some issues and problems with it, but still I find it very interesting, and I like that. And moving to Norway for me, without exaggeration, I would say it is like, I felt like moving to a different planet. Yeah, because it's so much different in many ways. It's like a totally, the mindset, the academic system, the ways people behave, and the culture, communication, and all those things are very much different, including the weather and food.
Thank you. It's a culture shock.
It's a culture
shock.
Serious culture shock. So, yeah. So, but talking about the academic line, so there is this respect for education as well, but I also saw that you do that with proper understanding, like you really understand what you do. Okay. Like it's not something you do with just out of fear, for example, out of unnecessary, so you just believe in it, you study. If you don't believe in it, you don't do it.
Simple.
Simple.
Yeah.
So especially the young men there, the younger generation, they tend to take this to the extreme, which I don't, I mean, this is my personal opinion, right? Which I don't support, which I don't like. So they just don't, we need people in the academia. And there has to be also some sense of respect for research and for education. Everything needs respect. I'm not saying that, this is that and then that. So that was the interesting thing I learned from there. They are similar actually in Norway and Switzerland in terms of this academic culture and environment. And in terms of work as well, in Ethiopia we are used to, at least I'm used to, taking orders, what to do. And if you miss anything, then you get direct to the point criticism, like, and even it's even a bit exaggerated sometimes. So your boss is your boss, and he or she shows that. So there is this fear of your bosses and your supervisors and all that thing. But on that side of the world, and in Norway specifically, it is not like that. But also it's even a bit challenging. I found it a bit challenging because sometimes what happens is, for example, you know what to do, and when you miss something at work, your supervisor does not tell you directly. So yeah, so it's
indirectly.
Yeah, it's indirectly. So it's quite. The first few months were quite challenging for me because I'm used to
people directly.
Yeah,
telling
directly.
you.
Hey, Kirobel, you have done this wrong. Are you crazy? I mean, I'm used to that kind of work or communication, and there, let alone saying those bad words, that they're not thinkable. But even they don't seem to tell you things directly. If they want something to be done, for example, what I can take one example. So let's say you're my boss and you just wanted me to just take this, to hold it like this. And then you wouldn't say that normally. I mean, you would say, I mean, I might be exaggerating a bit, but it's like there is indirect way of saying it. For example, it would be nice if this cup was
not there.
Yeah, kind of like that.
I know.
It would be nice if someone holds that cup. You know, this kind of indirect communication, because people don't want to confront you and to make you uncomfortable. They're so respectful and very kind. That is out of kindness and not to, pressure you. So when you do mistakes, they want you to know your mistake through time by yourself, instead of,
instead of pointing out this is what
yes,
you did.
Yes, exactly. They do it when it's extreme, of course, but but it's usually not. So that was, for me, that was a very different thing. I learned that we should respect people, and I learned our communication should be humble, and that changed me a lot. So for me, I don't like that extreme, but as an Ethiopian, for me it was very, very interesting to combine those two extreme cultures, work cultures together and find a balance somewhere in between. And this is what I learned in terms of the academic and work line. But when we talk about the culture, it's totally very broad and so many things. I mean, as I said,
where should you start? Food,
and
music.
Yeah, weather.
So
actually, yeah,
the weather.
The weather it was tough, but fortunately, I am someone who does not like too much sun. I don't want to, when I feel hot, I don't like it. So
you like the cold?
Yeah, somehow. I mean, not very much, but somehow, because sometimes, it can get, for about 6 or 5 months, you may not get that much of good sunlight, and that is really
coming from Ethiopia, how can you live in a place like that?
Exactly, that is...
that's very challenging.
Very challenging, extremely challenging.
And does that, you don't think that has anything to do with your health? Like...
It has.
It has definitely.
It has definitely. It has, especially this month, like end of October and November. So it gets so dark during the day. Exactly. So it's like the cars use their lights during the day, lunchtime.
That'd be freaky.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind, and in that month, it is believed that many people might commit suicide, because it can be, and the culture is not that much, as for example in Ethiopia you just talk to anyone, the stranger and all that, and it's not like that there. So people just have their own privacy and they don't talk too much with others, let alone strangers. Even with someone you don't talk too much, or so that can be challenging.
Are there any Ethiopians around you?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, so many Ethiopians. I lived in Oslo, the capital city, and there is a very big Ethiopian community. And I am in the Seventh-day Adventist Church community, so there are so many church people there, and around me, it was very sweet, lovely family there.
That's good. That's always good when you're abroad. When
exactly.
People you know.
Exactly.
So, are there challenges in providing ethically competent healthcare to incarcerated older adults with mental illness?
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
That is part of the study that was conducted in Canada specifically. So I did not do the interviews, but I was lucky enough to get the data, the interviews done by someone else in prison settings. Mm-hmm. So in those correctional facilities, they interviewed the health professionals, mental health professionals, working with older adults, incarcerated or imprisoned older adults with mental issues. So that paper it is recently published, and I am the first author of that paper. And there are several ethical issues in relation to that. For example, there are a limited number of health professionals who are skilled or professional enough to treat older patients with mental illness in prison settings. Okay. So that means the older incarcerated adults do not get the needed care. And not getting quality care is certainly an ethical issue. And apart from that, there is also sometimes, you know, when the human resource is scarce in prison settings, not only because human resource is scarce, but also when you want prisoners to be, you know, to come together and to work together. So there is this tendency of giving responsibilities, for example, for one prisoner to take care of another, to help another. That is another interesting ethical challenge identified in this study. So in this study, younger prisoners were assigned with some responsibilities to take care of older prisoners. And that was a tricky situation because we could ask different ethical questions, right? I mean, first of all, why is the prison, the correctional facility doing that? Is it because they don't have enough human resource and they don't want to hire human resource? They are saving money and then they are using the available prisoners. Or is it really because they want the prisoners to be productive and to help each other? If that is the case, that is awesome, great. And even when that is the case, there are ethical issues. You know, are you following the younger, or the younger prisoners when they give care? Do you supervise them well? Because there were some examples in which some older prisoners being abused by the younger prisoners.
I was thinking of that.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. That's the first thing you'd think of.
Yeah, exactly. So they're asking, the younger prisoners, they ask them for money, and I will not do this for you if you don't do this for me, and I will not help you, I will not. And then sometimes they use harsh words and abuse. There are positive sides, of course. There are other young prisoners who said, were very much supportive and very much helpful, and who learned new things from the older prisoners, and there is this intergenerational awesome relationship created as well. It's not like everything is bad, right? So there were these ethical issues and involving others, unqualified people for the care of, older prisoners who are very much vulnerable, and you should be very much careful with this group, right? And there are these and other ethical challenges.
When you mentioned that it's the younger prisoners that are taking care of the older. Now, the older prisoners, they have mental issues. Yeah, exactly. Do the younger ones also have mental issues, or are they from a different facility?
From different, yeah, no.
Okay, so they're okay.
Yeah, they're okay. They don't have, because that is one of the requirements to be recruited in that. They call it the peer support program. So to be part of that, you have to be mentally and behaviorally and all those things.
Okay. How do you think Africa is dealing with this situation, and is there any research done or planned for Africa? Because, when I was reading about what you did, a lot of the things, this being a Pan-African show, I was trying to relate everything that you did within the Africa context. So that's basically what my question is. I'm thinking we probably have huge issues when you're talking about the whole of the continent. So I want you to tell me what you think and how you viewed it, or if you've done any kind of research around the rest of Africa.
I did not do much, but there is just one review that together with my team, that we did. And that review is now is submitted, and we expect, we hope it will be published in a few months. So the review is on generally ethical issues in old age care in East Africa. So the East African region consists of 19, at least according to the UN. So there are different sources which categorize East Africa different. Yeah. But according to one of the most used source, there are around 19 East African countries. Ethiopia is one of that, of course. So, including all those countries, we searched for studies, any published journal articles, focusing on or addressing, it could be indirectly, addressing ethical issues in old age care in this region. So, as to our knowledge, unfortunately, actually, we could not find any study that directly and openly discuss ethical issues. When I say this, it's like mentioning or incorporating ethical analysis in their discussion. That's what I meant. But however, this does not mean that those studies do not indirectly discuss ethical issues, because, for example, some of them talk about vulnerability of older people. That's a typical ethical issue. Yeah. Victimization and killing of older people in some cultural settings. For example, in rural Tanzania, there was one study that we identified, and some other studies that I could not remember. But there are studies. It's not like there is nothing, but still there is much to do. Much more to do. And we really need that. So in the area of research, that is what I could say. But apart from that, generally also, not only on ethical issues, but generally on aging or older adult care. For example, there is this, I think it is called the African Union Convention on the Rights of Older Adults, which was adopted in 2016. That's like 6 years ago. That is quite interesting. And this is a very interesting move towards this progress. So the Convention on the Rights of Older Adults, and in that is we also find healthcare and how the legal system also should protect older adults, and how the community also should support older adults. There are some interesting components in that. And interestingly enough, Ethiopia is one of the 3 only African countries to ratify that that convention.
Wow.
And this happened in 2020. So in 2020, the other 2 countries are Benin and Lesotho. And then the 3rd country to ratify this convention, AU Convention on the Rights of Older Adults, is Ethiopia in 2020. So
what does that mean, though?
Exactly, that is the point. And promising to do things is easy, and changing or translating them into action is another thing. So, but at least that means that the countries, whether it be legal system or healthcare system, but as a country, the country is aware and is responsible to take actions for the protection of older people, to ensure their rights, to guarantee them that. So that means that also pushes Ethiopia, as I said, mainstreaming. So mainstream the protection of older. It could be in employment, the rights of older people, so that they will not be discriminated, in healthcare, in all those things. So I would say there are things being done. There is this, a few years ago in Ethiopia, there was one document for the welfare of older persons or older adults. So there are some interesting movements, interesting steps, but still our population is big. Yeah. We're 120, 110 million people, and we really need to do much more in this
and I think
area.
70% is young, 30% is probably 70%. They say is the young population in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
There's 70% of under 30.
Yeah.
30% over 50. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
That's one of me. That's me. I'm one of those. You know what I mean? I'm just like, okay, I'm still alive, I'm kicking. You know what I mean? But going forward, you just never know.
You just never know.
You just never know.
And there is one interesting thing here, which also actually Mrs. Ruth Abraham, she mentioned one of the days when we had a telephone conversation. She said something interesting, and what she said was, just these people don't think of their future. She was criticizing, like, you know, for example, the younger generation or the current generation. You know, they don't. No, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not like directly quoting, but yeah, they forget that they will get older.
Exactly.
She said,
we all do.
Yeah, we all do.
And all do.
Exactly. That was a very interesting thing, what she said. And this is also what I found in my study. So we tend to forget. We just focused, you know, so the younger generation is relaxed. And there is one more thing to add here. And there are also people who blame the current older generation because they did not think of their future yesterday. Right? So
it's the younger generations.
Yeah, still the younger generation. So I have to think of my future. So that will help my present time, but also
when you grow older.
When I grow older, then I will not complain saying, you know, this and that, right? So we should really think of our future when we are 10 years old.
I know, but you know, it's so difficult. Even when you're in your 20s, you never think you're going to reach 30. I mean, exactly. I was 20 a while ago, but still I never thought I was going to reach, like, even 25.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So for you to think of, okay, I'm going to get old after 50? Are you kidding me? I can't even see 25. So it's very hard for them to think of their future. Yeah. So I would say it's, since we were there and now we're here and we're realizing, because we also have parents that are also elderly. So I feel like it's our responsibility, since we're a little bit more aware than our children and also our parents. So we should be the ones that should, you know, going forward, provide, whether it's nursing homes or elderly living. Otherwise,
we should really work on that. And it's because of different reasons that we don't think of tomorrow. As you said, I mean, I'm 30 now, and I don't know about tomorrow. Why should I care? I'm not even sure, because, you know, the things that happen around could also affect. Because when you see people dying just like nothing, you know, just like flies and cockroaches, due to all these conflicts and all that, so you might think, okay, I might die tomorrow. I might get sick and die tomorrow, and why should I care? That also affects, but also religion affects, right? You know,
absolutely.
Yeah, God takes care of the tomorrow, and why should I care? And, but that is a wrong way to interpret those principles, I would say.
That's very true. I really enjoyed our conversation, because I think, you know, we all have older parents or grandparents that we always think of, or we are currently taking care of. And one thing that I've always noticed is, you know, I lived abroad. So abroad, I used to always think we in Ethiopia took care of our elderly. I'm sorry for my naivety, but that's what I always thought, because when I went abroad and saw all these people sending all their parents into nursing homes, I'm like, what are they thinking? Because I didn't really appreciate nursing homes. And maybe it's because I didn't know a whole lot, or from what I knew, it wasn't positive. So I would think that our elderly in Ethiopia, or let's say Africa, were actually way better than the ones in the West, because they are living, you know, with family. Family's taking care of them. It's not a stranger coming in doing this.
Exactly.
Because it's not comfortable when a stranger actually, you know, does a whole lot of stuff to you, especially as an elder.
Exactly.
So my last question to you is, can you tell us about the award you received at the Geneva Health Forum?
Okay.
That's like the highlight.
Yeah, exactly, isn't it? Yes. So, so the Geneva Health Forum is something that happens. It's an international health forum with you know, thousands of people being present, and it happens once in 2 years' time. So this one happened in May.
Last year.
No, this May. Yeah.
Oh, this May?
Yeah, this May.
Congratulations then.
Thank you so much.
It's very recent. Wow.
Very recent, some days ago actually.
Yes.
So it happened this year, yeah. And so the whole process is like, as part of this, so it stays for 3 days, and on the last day, as part of the forum, so what they do is they invite people who could, graduate students or researchers who could present their research in 3 minutes. So it is called a 3-minute talk, a speed talk. So this 3 minutes speed talk is getting popularity these days, actually. It began in Australia, I guess. And so what they did was they announced it through university networks and also on their website all around the world. And so what you do is you send a 3-minute video from home. So I sent this from Addis Ababa, actually. And 3-minute video, present your research, and you send it. So it was around 4,000 something people who sent this 3-minute video. That's the number I got from another colleague. So, and then at the end what happened was, so they've selected 4 people.
From the 4,000?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They selected 4 people to be present in Geneva physically. You can't do it online. Okay. Yeah. So they just pay you the ticket and then you go there and then you present 3 minutes and 1 minute into self-introduction. So together 4 minutes. But the one is, so actually they assigned us a coach for the 4 of us. I was one of the 4. So, and it was quite challenging. I was telling her, I mean, how can I introduce myself in 1 minute?
No.
I mean, you can't even, so you're playing with seconds actually. So you just look at, and then it's 59 seconds you have to stop, or 58 seconds and then you have to stop. So that practice was very much challenging. And the 3 minutes is like a 3 minute. So it's not like Abeshan Ethiopian 3 minutes, right?
You at 3 minutes, not 3:01.
No, 3 is done. So I practiced that, and I went there, and then the public voted. So we all 4 of us presented, and of the 4, I became one. So the one.
I became the winner.
I became the winner.
Became the one.
I became the one.
Oh, that is very exciting.
That was, yeah.
So you have voted for Kirubel Moussi.
Thank you.
What was the 3 minutes? It was about your research, obviously.
It's about
right?
my research.
Okay.
But the thing is, so it's based on public vote, right? It's 1,500 or around 2,000 people voting. So it's not only about the research, but it's also how you present it. So the idea is actually not only focusing on, you know, the novelty of your research, but also your skill. Like as a researcher, how can you talk? How can you convince, express yourself, and, you know, communicate with the audience? And that is also part of this concept, the speed talk.
Thank you for having me, and I say a few things about my research. Starting from when I was 12 years old, I was raised by my mother alone. So I tend to be close to her, and we talk a lot. She's getting older now, she's in her 70s. And one day we were talking and she said something like this, I'm paraphrasing. My son, I don't really look forward to growing older sometimes, because I don't think our society is ready for that. That's a valid concern. I did not understand much what she was trying to say at that time, not until I started to read more about aging and got the motivation to develop my PhD research project, and luckily got funding for it. So our world is aging, and countries like Ethiopia are struggling with that change, mainly because they are transiting from a traditional to modern support system for older people. So the question in my PhD is, what are then the ethical challenges with the decision-making in old age care in Ethiopia?
I think you captured them, because I did see it. And I loved the fact that, because it's so stressful, that you were very humorous about the whole idea.
Okay, yeah.
And I think even for yourself, you had to feel calm. So you had to make everybody, you know, you had to make them laugh a little, so everybody kind of relaxed, and then you dove into it.
Yeah.
So it was a beautiful way of starting.
Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure having you as a guest today.
Thank you so much.
If there's anything that you need to add that you feel like we haven't talked about or you haven't mentioned that people should know, this is the time that you just throw it in.
Not really, not much. I just want to thank you so much for inviting me. It is such a humbling experience to talk these things. And as I said, I've said a lot already, but as I said, let us just try to think of our future. Try to think of Kirubel when he's 60 plus. At least that can help us to work a little bit, because when we think of ourselves, okay, my future, we tend to be a little bit selfish, right? So, so if we think of ourselves, then we can do a little bit better. But still, we should also think of the present situation, the situation all the adults are in, and we should really go forward.
Thank you. That's a very good advice. Thank you again for tuning in. This is Afreeqa and your host, Qatsalorq Seifu. Hope to see you next week. Thank you.